What's up, everybody? This is Kobe from Amore IT Solutions, and today I'm going to swap out my UniFi 24-port POE switch with a UniFi 48-port POE switch. I also have a secondary 24-port Cat 6 patch panel I'm going to put in, and I have a CloudKey Gen 2 Plus rack that I'm going to put in. Here's what it looks like. Just got these today. This is the second gen UniFi switch that I'm going to be installing. I'll let you guys see what I have now. So this is the UniFi 24 port that I have here. That's going to get swapped out. Basically, that's going to go right where this 24 port is. The 48 port's going to go there, and then below that it's going to go an exact basically another patch panel that looks just like this will go below the 48 port. And then my CloudKey Gen 2 Plus is going to go in that rack mount, so that will go right here. And we'll probably be able to get rid of this 8-port UniFi switch. So let's go back to where the new switch is. Basically what we're going to do is just take Ethernet cable, plug in the new switch to the 16-port switch that we have down here, and we'll go ahead and adopt that. And as soon as it's adopted, what we're going to do is we're going to take the configuration of the 24 port, all the ports, the naming schemes and whatnot, and the VLANs, and we're going to switch those over to the 48 port. Then we're going to go and take the 24 port out, put the 48 port in, fire it up, and see, hopefully everything comes up the way that it's supposed to. So we will be back. So booting up the switch for the first time. You can see the status here of it loading. Okay, we've got the initial, our uplink here plugged in, like I said, to our 16-port switch, and let's see what it looks like in UniFi. Okay, so we are at the UniFi controller. You can see that the new switch is pending adoption, and it's running the old firmware 4.0.64.10823, and my other switches are, obviously on the latest and greatest firmware. So what we're going to do is we are going to go and adopt this. Basically what we're going to do after we adopt this and it provisions, we will update it to the latest firmware, and then what we're going to do is this 24 port PoE switch, we're going to take all the configurations and put that into the 48 port, and once we do that, we'll disconnect the 48 port and we'll go and plug it into the rack and swap the 24 port out. And this is going to take a few minutes, so we will be back as soon as this is done. Alright, it's done provisioning, and the status is connected. We're going to go ahead and do the upgrade now to the firmware. As soon as this is done, we'll be right back. Okay, so the firmware is upgraded. We are now at the latest firmware 4.3.20.11298. As you can see, the address, IP address is 192.168.73.165. What we're going to want to do is make this the .2. So we'll go in and change this. I'm also going to want to name this. Let's see, 48. We'll save that. Go into network, change from DHCP to static. And then what we're going to do is put this as .3 and put the router DNS subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Alternate DNS we'll just do 8.8.8.8, which is Google, and the gateway, that's the gateway to the router. So let's see, let's review all this. Looks good. Queue changes, apply changes, and it's provisioning. We'll just wait for the IP to change here. Probably take a few minutes, so we will be back as soon as it's done. Alright, so made a mistake here. Actually, I wanted this to be .2, not .3. So let's change that. Queue it up and apply. There, it's provisioning. Alright, we'll be back as soon as it's done. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we are going to put these rack mounts on the side here of the switch, and here is Ubiquity's always nice packaging that they have for their screws and whatnot. So wrap these rack ears. Always fun to do when you only have two hands. Alright. And we'll pause this and I'll put these ears on and I'll be right back. Let's see if I can set this up so that you guys can see kind of what I'm doing here. Not sure if you guys are going to be able to see this, but alright. We'll give it a try. Screws out here for this one to be mounted. Some people like to use a normal screwdriver. I'm impatient, so I like to use the old rigid power drill. Make sure we're smart. Good enough. Alright, so got one side on. Now let's do the other side. And no, I'm not stripping them. That's actually the clutch in the drill. So it gets to a certain torque and then it slips, so you don't over tighten them. Alright, so we got the ears on. Looking good. Now time to put in the rack. Be right back. Okay, we're back at the rack. So basically, I've already unplugged the first 12 Ethernet cables from the patch panel, but basically they're all labeled the same. So one from the patch panel goes to one in the switch, to the patch panel, two in the switch, and so on. So all I have to do really is unplug all of these cables, and we will take the 24 port switch out, put the 48 port switch in here, and then just plug all the cables back in. So we will be back. Alright, next what we're going to do is remove the screws to the 24 port. Try not to drop it. Try and do this without any help. Alright, we'll pull this out. Now, we're going to put the 48 port in its place. Is a beast. First screw in loosely. Turn them out with my fingers. I've had experience doing this with power drill, and you knock the backers out the rack, and then that's a pain because you got to pull the thing out and put them back in. So over the years you get smarter with installing this stuff. Alright, let's start tightening these down. Tight enough. Alright. So we got the 48 port in, and now basically all we have to do is just hook up all the cables. Now, I have more of these style of cables I'm going to go grab, and we'll start out with port 1, and we'll just go down the line. Alright, we'll be right back. Okay, so going with the red, white, and blue theme here. So we'll just start plugging port 1 into port 1 and so forth. Actually, it's not 1 to 1. It's going to be that we're going to use all of the top ports on the switch. And basically you just do it for the clean look. And, you know, length of cables. These are all 1/2-inch cables, so, or 6-inch I should say. 6-inch cables. So we'll plug all the red ones in. Plug all the white ones in. And then we'll go to blue. This is the way that I like to do the patch panels of the switches. I mean, if you can get a 48 port switch, they just, as you can see, it's a lot cleaner. Taking a 24 port switch, 48 port switch with a 24 port patch panel, and then, you know, just hooking them all up like this. And then what you do is we're just going to put another one of these patch panels below this, and then all the bottom ports here of the switch will be plugged into the other patch panel, and it'll just look really clean. So we got red, white, and blue. What do we do next? We got purple and black. Maybe we'll just go with black. Probably going to order some more of these cables later on. Sorry about all the rustling noise. I should have opened these up first. Just getting them out of the packages. You guys want to know where to get these cables? I go through Monoprice. I'm not sure if you can read that, but yeah, they make some pretty cool thin cables. These aren't your traditional, you know, Ethernet cables. I think the smaller ones look a lot better, and I like the form factor of them when you're plugging them in. I just think it looks a lot cleaner. And something that I'm thinking about now is that I'm going to have to remap these because I didn't think about, this is the thing about networking, guys. Think about actually you know, having these hooked up on the top ports, and basically, you know, they're not going to match up with how I set them up in the controller, but no big deal. I can go into the controller and I can switch those out. Gonna pause here. I'm gonna plug the switch in and get the switch fired up, and we'll be right back. Alright, so we got the 48 port switch in place of the 24 port that we had. Look at how good that looks. Red, white, and blue. And yes, we got the black on the end, but still, USA, baby. USA. So we got what's cool about these new Gen 2 switches is that they have a little touchscreen. And let's see, 1 through 48. So you can see like what ports are actually being in use. And it gives you information on each one of them, which is pretty sweet. You can just swipe up to go back. Some more statistics on throughput. System, memory, CPU. I don't know if you can see this. Temperature, the switch, wattage. Last 7 days, obviously, it's just been plugged in. Last 30 days. But yeah, pretty sweet. You got your brightness that you can control. Oops. I'll put it to 60. Information on the IP address. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. But we got this all hooked up so far, and we're going to do something with these two. These are going to be swapped out with different cables and be punched down to the new patch panel that we have down below here. So I think next thing I'll do, even though I'm not going to punch any cables down tonight, is I'm going to put that patch panel here, and then I'm going to put the CloudKey Gen 2 rack here. Maybe I'll do it for another night. I've got all these cables here that are going to have to be swapped out, and they're going to be plugged into the bottom section of the 48 port. I'll probably do that tomorrow and make a video of it. So actually, I'll probably just leave it the way that it is tonight. Actually, what we'll do is I will go to the controller to show you guys what it looks like in the UniFi controller. Okay, now we have the right address, 192.168.73.2. So now what we're going to want to do, and maybe what will be easiest, is to pull up another tab here with the controller. And what we're going to want to do is we'll look at the configuration here of the 24 port switch. We'll go over to this other tab, open up the 48 port switch, and what we're going to want to do is these ports we're going to try and configure them to be in the 48 port switch. And then what it'll make it easier for us that when we unplug the 24 port switch, that we will put the 48 port switch in there and firing it up, and hopefully everything boots up and is working the way that it should. Now with the 24 port, you know, we've got some VLANs, some other things, some configurations that we're going to want to do. Let's see here. So basically, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to copy the naming scheme for port 1, and I'm just going to go over to port 1 of the 48 port switch and copy that in there, click apply. We're just going to keep going back and forth and doing this. So we're going to come down here, port 2, and this is one of our UniFi dome cameras. Come over here, port 2, paste, apply. Let's go back here and make sure, yeah, okay. Alright, now we're gonna go to port 3, which is not being used right now, but we're still have a naming scheme here for even the empty ports, and we are just going to copy and paste that. Go to port 4. This one is for the Xbox. And all these ports we have, we wired Cat 6 Ethernet cable through the crawl space underneath our house. And then what we did is we put wall plates with network jacks in the walls. So like this room that I'm in now has 6 ports. We've got our kids' room has 3 ports, and then our son that used to was living here, but he's now moved out. He's an adult. He moved out and he's up north. That room, it's kind of like a spare room. We have 6 ports in there, and then in our living room we have 6 ports at our entertainment center. So that's basically what I'm mapping is these ports that I ran the Ethernet cable to. Alright, so this is port 4. Switch over to the 48 port. Go to port 4. Name that. Apply. So it's kind of tedious, but you get the kind of gist of what I'm doing here. So we are on port 5. Two, three, 4, 5. Port 6. Port 7. That is the Apple TV in our living room. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's make sure I'm on the right ports here. So, port 8. Another camera that we have, dome camera. Copy that, switch over to the 48 port. Port 8, paste that, apply. Ninth port. Tenth port's another Xbox. This is in my room. And yes, I have 2 Xboxes in my name, but one of them used to be my son's, and he no longer has it. So now I have 2 because I paid for it, and it's not his. It's mine. Let's see, port 10. Apply. Is my PS4. Port 12 is not being used. Empty port. Port 13 is uplinked to the UniFi 16 port, which is what actually in the parents room, which is what I'm on right now. This is Jacob's Apple TV. Now, I gotta go back because Jacob's on a different VLAN. So he's on Norseman VLAN 10. So we're gonna want to switch that over to that VLAN. Just click on the drop down here, switch it over to Norseman, click apply. Alright, so that's port 14. Let's see, 15 is Jacob's Xbox. Also on his VLAN is Norseman, so we need to make sure that we put that for this port on the 48 port. Click apply. Over 15, we're on 16. We've got this switch completely, I mean I guess it's not really completely filled because we don't have all the ports. We're not using all the ports, but we do have them all mapped. So because this is in Jacob's room, everything in Jacob's room is under the Norseman VLAN. So even though these ports are empty, we're still putting it in that VLAN. Another empty port, Jacob's room. For 18. So each one of the kids are set up with their own VLAN. Still working on Jacob's here. Like I said, Jacob's room is actually the office room. Jacob is the one that actually... He's 19 and he moved out. He went up to the UP. He's living up there with his significant other and working. And he comes back from time to time to come and visit. So we clean out the room and we've still got a bed in there for him. Let's see. So port 19, right? Empty. 6. Port 20. So now we're in our younger kids' room, Jaden and Kyler. They have a VLAN called Titan. And basically these VLANs, the names, the how we got these names of the VLANs is the schools that they're in. So Jacob, when he was going to high school, they were called the Norsemen, and Jaden and Kyler, where they go to high school at, is the Titans. So that's how we came up with that. So what we're going to want to do is drop down to the Titan VLAN on this, click apply. Now we're on port 21. Also in Jaden and Kyler's room, this is Kyler's Xbox. Switch over to Titan, click apply, switch back over. Port 22. This is an empty port. We're also, like I said, still going to put it as the Titan VLAN, even though there's nothing plugged into it right now. And port 23 is going to be the cloud key. Gen 2 Plus, and this is actually where I think I showed earlier in the video that I've got a rack mount for this Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus. So we'll be installing that. I'm not sure if we're going to do it in this video or maybe the next video. Haven't decided yet. But okay, the last port, port 24, which we really don't have anything in, so I guess we really don't need to be naming that one. So it looks like we're pretty much done. I'm just going to go and recap and make sure. Pretty sure all the naming scheme is right. I just want to make sure that the VLANs are right. So there's no VLANs in the living room. There's no VLANs in the parents' room. It's really, excuse me, it's really just the kids. So Jacob's Norseman, that's right. That's right. That's right. I think all these are good. Then we'll go down to Jaden and Kyler's room. I'm not going to check all of these, but I'm pretty sure they're all correct. Yep, they all look good. This is 23. This is 23. So I think we've got it all set up the way that we want it. And really, what is next is to go and remove the 24 port out of the rack and plug in the 48 port and fire it up and see if we got everything configured correctly. So we will be back. So I made a bit of a mistake in the mapping. I actually mapped the 48 port when I did the naming scheme. I was doing it, you know, basically filling up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I wanted to do is only use the top ports. So I had to go back and I had to rename. I had to go back to the 24 port and then go to the 48 port and remap these. Basically, just rename them. So I already did that. I'll show you what it looks like here. So basically, the top ports are all odd numbers. So it was fairly simple. You know, so instead of going from port 1 to port 2, it's just 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and so on. So, and then basically the even ports will be that second rack that I put, or that second patch panel that I put in below the switch, and all of those cables that go to there will go into the bottom section of the switch, and those are all the even ports, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc. So got that all hooked up. Everything's looks good. What we're going to do is we've got this 24 port now that's unplugged, and obviously it shows disconnected. What you want to do is you click in the field there, hit the little configuration gear here, go down to manage device, and what we're going to do is we're going to click forget. And what that's going to do is it's just going to take it out of the controller so that it doesn't show up here, and it's already gone. So this is the way we want it to look. Now the IP scheme is going to change. This 8 port is going to not be in use probably tomorrow when I do the rest of the configuration, but the 16 port will be here. So what we're going to do is I like to do the numbering scheme, so it's like 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's just, I don't know, it's just something that I do. I do it with my customer network gear too. So what we're going to do is just temporarily I'm going to name this one that we're probably going to get rid of. Huh, that's weird. It wasn't even on a static IP address. It's 8 port, right? Yeah. Well, what we're going to do, instead of it being .4, I'm going to make it .6 temporarily. Subnet mask 255.255.255.0. The gateway is .1. Alternate DNS, we just put Google in there. So we'll switch this up, wait for it to provision. And the only reason why I'm doing this is so that I don't have IP conflicts. So I'm going to put the 8 port to .6 because it's going to be removed at some point, and I want this .4. And let me think this through. Actually, I didn't need to do that. Oh, Kobe. Okay, so I really didn't need to do that, but basically we want the 16 port to be .3. So I kind of just wasted a lot of time doing something that I didn't need to do. But anyways, it's funny that these are all DHCP. I must have just forgot to switch these over. But so this is going to be .3. And gateway address and Google DNS. Queue it, apply changes. So I could still leave the 8 port as .6. That's fine. Like I said, that's once I get the rest of the rack set up, this 8 port switch I'm going to take out anyway. So when this gets done provisioning, basically the 48 port is going to be .2 and the 16 port is going to be .3. And I segment out my switches from my access points. So the access points, usually I start out at .10. Obviously, it depends on how many switches you have, but I just like to segment them out in different numbering systems. I basically do the same thing with every network setup that I do. It just makes it more streamlined and easy. If customers call me and they ask me, I need to remote into like a switch or some other type of network gear, I know what IP addresses they are because they're all the same. So, all right, so this is done provisioning. So 48 port switch is .2, 16 port is .3. And like I said, afterwards, when I get this all done, I'm going to take this switch out. But we're going to have to do the same thing that we did today, which is take the naming scheme of each port on the 8 port switch, and we're going to want to put that on the 48 port when we have that plugged in. But really the only thing that we have, let's see, we've got the wireless access point, and then we've got, it looks like maybe 2 cameras. Not sure what these other are. Oh, that's a Synology demo that I'm demoing right now. I'm not sure what these two are. I'll have to figure that out. Actually, these three. Um, yeah, I just didn't label them. Should have labeled them, but didn't. Anyways, that's going to conclude the video for today. Yeah, if you like this video, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. It really helps us out, and we would appreciate it. And we will see you guys on the next video.